the town's
Yeah, there you go. Here comes Jenny. Russ, were you able to play with that and figure it out?
I got a little bit. I'll have to look at it again, but
Yeah.
I think I got to the right place. And now, can I work on that when I'm not online with somebody else? Fix that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give it a shot. It had a little box here that said, make me look better, and that's as good as you're going to get.
Get all your little pretty filters going. Ew. Can everybody hear us okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Ready. Oh, we need a microphone.
So it's okay to unplug this one? Can I unplug this one? I just got off a 2-hour Zoom meeting on homeless task force. So welcome, everybody. Hi. Today's Zoom day.
Yeah.
Test. You guys can hear me okay, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll get going here in just a couple seconds.
Sometimes too much noise comes in from the road that way. But I've got the fans on, so that's circulating in here. It'll kind of go this way.
No, you're fine. All right, welcome everybody. It's October 28th. It's actually 3:03, and I'd like to bring this meeting to order. This is the Town of Loomis Land Use Subcommittee, Taylor Road Downtown Business Corridor. We are here in the depot. We do have several members of the public that are here. In addition, there are members of our committees on Zoom, and that link to Zoom is on our agenda. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, Chairperson Jan Clark-Kretz. Can you hear me?
I can.
Are you muted, Carol?
No,
We can hear,
You are muted.
we can hear Carol.
We cannot hear you, Carol.
everybody here can hear me.
Nope.
Yeah.
Everybody on Zoom can hear her.
Seems
That's
it.
funny.
Would you like to do roll call, Mary Beth?
I will.
Okay.
Oh, they can hear her on Zoom.
Yes.
Huh. Well, then that's on my end.
Okay, hold on. There we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Now try again, Carol.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Chairperson Jan Clark-Kretz,
Here.
Vice Chair Bonnie London, Russ Kelly,
Here.
Jennifer Nisley,
Here,
Tim Underko,
Here.
Maureen Valley,
Here.
Ryan DiMartini,
Here.
Auxiliary Member Jean Wilson,
Here.
and Ramona Brockman.
I don't see her here yet, but if she pops in, I'll let you know.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now is a time for committee comment for items not on the agenda. Or any of the members of the public for items not on the agenda. Do you have something? Okay, hold on just a moment. Here's Bonnie.
I wanted to let everybody know that we are bringing Town Talks back next week. So it's going to be Wednesday, November 3rd, 5:30. And the goal is going to be getting community feedback on housing design standards and guidelines.
Great. Maureen?
Yes, I wanted to let everybody know that I attended the state of Rockland today, and two things they said that were pretty interesting. One is that they're putting in another traffic circle at Pacific and Rockland Road. I just thought that was kind of interesting because we were discussing that. And also the old Kmart on Pacific is being converted into workforce housing. And I was just wondering if we had any such structures.
The old which?
The
Which
old
facility?
the Kmart building.
Oh,
Huh, that is really interesting.
Yeah.
Both items.
As far as I'm aware, the town of Loomis does not have any specific workforce housing locations.
Anybody else have any items they'd like to discuss not on the agenda? All right, hearing and seeing none, and none from the public, do I have a motion? Bonnie has a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call, please.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
Jan Clark-
is this a motion to adopt the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, didn't hear that part.
Jan Clark-Kretz,
Yes.
Bonnie London. Yes. Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jenny Nisley,
Yes,
Tim Underko,
Yes.
Maureen Valley,
Yes, she says yes.
and Ryan DiMartini.
Yes.
Thanks.
All right, great, thank you. Now we're going to move on to public comment regarding our consent agenda. Does anybody have any comments about the consent agenda? And any members of the public?
No.
Hearing or seeing none, is there a potential motion out there to approve our consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
All right. A roll call, please.
Yes, Jan Clark-Kretz,
Yes.
Bonnie London. Yes. Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jennifer Nisley,
yes,
Tim Underko.
Yes.
Maureen Valley,
Yes.
Ryan DiMartini.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Now we're going to move right over to committee matters. I'm passing it off to Mary Beth.
Certainly. At this time, we're going to pick up where we left off on September 23rd, and I will hand the floor over to Mark Teague from PlaceWorks, technical staff on this element.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And I'll share my screen here. So we were looking at property changes. The committee may have remembered that we also looked at goals and policies, which are here. And we made a bunch of edits to this as we went through. And Mary Beth, I don't recall, I don't have any purple on here like I normally do to indicate where we stopped. Do you recall whether we completed this task or whether we still had some place to go in through here?
Mark, what we're looking at is a purple background with 3 windows in it.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if I can get Zoom to do what it's supposed to do. Share. Here. How about that? Is that better?
Yeah, and then expand it open a little more. Please.
How's that?
Way better.
Okay.
I don't have, well, let me see. Christy, are you available? Do you know what, where we left off here?
Yeah, I'm trying to look for my notes to see where we were. I don't believe we were finished with.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember we were here, and I think this may be where we stopped. And
yeah, that
so,
that looks to be about right.
Right, and I apologize to the committee because I normally, as you know, I shade them in purple, so I remember where we were. And for some strange reason, this one did not get shaded. So this was the last one we talked to. It says maintain open communication with the railroad to ensure that improvements along their right of way are consistent with the needs of the town. And I believe the committee was happy with that wording because the other wording that was here basically would be difficult to do. And this was a little more provide a little more oversight.
And the minutes state that we're going to start at the policies that we had completed through that point and begin at 3.10.2 policies and implementation.
I love it when I'm accidentally doing what I'm supposed to do.
Accidentally, you did quite well.
So, okay.
Something I wondered about though, when you go through and you do these piecemeal, that's one thing and it looks fine. And then I went back and looked at all the goals together. And it seems to me very strange that for the downtown business corridor, we have absolutely nothing in here about economic development at all. There's nothing economic about this area. And I think that's one of the primary concerns for this area. So do we need some kind of goal to that? We took out the one that was in there.
We have an entire economic development element.
It's a complete section
Of the general plan.
It's a new section. It's a new section.
It feels like it belongs here too, some mention of it.
And we can certainly, I mean, I don't mean to say we can't put one here. I'm just saying we have an entire element of the general plan that is specifically dedicated to economic development. So if you want to put one up here, that's fine, but this was focused on the land use aspect, not necessarily the economic development aspect of things.
So this is focused on, okay, this is focused on the land use. This is going to be within the land use element, but we're not going to say anything about that the downtown is basically for economic development and commercial. And it just seems strange.
We can certainly do that, and many general plans do. It's just because we had this entire element that's dedicated to that particular topic, the direction here was more toward land use.
Mark, can you move it back up to show, I think, where we might have struck out some things that maybe Jean might want to consider to leave in? Correct?
Or maybe we can just say some kind of reference to that we want this area to follow or look at the economic development element. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we could maybe refer or mention it. Because it does say.
One of the things the element does is describes relevant elements in the general plan before we get into goals, policies, et cetera. So that section, when this is reassembled into that format, there will be a section saying, please see also the economic development element for relevant goals and policies. So that will be done. It's not going to be a goal policy, but it's a section that references it. So throughout the document, we're doing that, especially for elements like circulation and others that, a lot of these elements relate to it.
What's the wish of the committee?
What do you think, Jean?
Well, I'm not technically a member of the committee. I'm an auxiliary. What we took out was goods and services and promote economic stability of the town. So I don't know. It seems like those are related to the land use. The land uses that we're putting in are basically to enhance. I mean, that's what we're working on is economics of the downtown. That's what our land use is all about here. So maybe it's sufficient to have it someplace else only.
And I would argue that your entire general plan is a marketing tool for your town, but certainly if it's the wish of the committee, we can certainly craft a policy to put these back in and wordsmith it so it reads better.
I will say though, if you think about it, there's business occurring in almost every area of our town. It's not just this particular committee.
And
I would recommend if you're interested in doing that, make a recommendation to the planning commission. And when this comes to the full planning commission, have them make that consideration of incorporation of economic goals within this section or leave them in the economic development section, because they'll be looking at this general plan comprehensively.
Okay, do we want to, what do you think about that, Jean? Do you want to, perhaps after we're done fleshing it out and then seeing the economic development section, maybe
I would say we can pass it on to kick it over to the planning commission. I don't hear a big outcry from everybody else, so we need to leave it in. So that's okay.
Okay.
Either drop it or ask planning commission to look at it when they're looking at the overall picture.
So we do have some pieces here, but they may not get to the point that Jean was talking about. And I remember the committee working hard on the wording for those that policy there. Okay.
Moving on.
Right. Let me open up the. Okay, so this is a policy, and this gets back to, as I understand it, the history of the first general plan was that the town didn't have a zoning code to play with. Now we have one, and so the idea would be that this shows up on the map and also shows up in the text, but we don't typically call out where things are based on words within the document. We already have a zoning map and we have a general plan land use map.
Now, isn't this statement largely obsolete except for the reference to design guidelines? Is that in here?
Yes. Yeah, it's right here that there needs to be some. And I would argue that you probably need a specific policy to develop and adopt and implement design guidelines for your downtown. And maybe for the town as a whole, maybe not just limited to this area, but certainly for the commercial areas along Taylor and Horseshoe Bar Road.
Well, but there's I didn't look it up. There's a statement in the general plan that basically says the town center master plan is basically obsolete because it's taken over by the general plan until at least the guide until the design guidelines would still be in effect until we get new ones. And that's what we never did do, but we did do the zoning ordinance. So there were things in the town center master plan that were not really felt desirable by the time we got to the general plan. So everything that they wanted to keep was incorporated, and the things that they didn't want were quietly left out.
Okay.
And so there's that provision that the town center master plan is no longer in a, I didn't look it up, but there's a statement that basically says that the town center and master plan has basically been overruled by the general plan, except for the design guidelines, which are still in effect until we do new ones, which we never did.
Yes, that's on page III-20 in our regular general plan.
Okay, so Andy, Christy, we need some help here. What do you want to do with that information?
Okay. Where is that, Dan? Because it's not in my copy on that page.
It says the downtown plan. That's on III-20, which is the land use section.
Are you looking at a new copy or an old one? I don't have any IIIs in mine.
I don't know, this one.
What's before it and after it?
The land use implementation measures is I, land use implementation members, which is probably why it's called I.
Can you just read it to people? It's only a couple sentences, isn't it?
It's a paragraph. It says downtown plan. In 1992, the town council adopted the Loomis Town Center Master Plan as part of the general plan. The purpose of the plan was to determine how new development and land uses can occur in the central portion of Loomis while maintaining its traditional small town character and encouraging its economic vitality. And that's from the Town Center Master Plan. This general plan update, together with the adoption of the design guidelines referenced in the following section and the updating of the town's zoning ordinance consistent with this general plan, replace the Town Center Master Plan as a formal general plan element, reducing the number of documents that must be reviewed in depth before a complete understanding of the town's expectations for development can be understood. The Town Center Master Plan will then remain available as a resource document, which provided the basis for the town's relevant general plan goals and policies, zoning regulations, and design guidelines.
Yeah, I found it. So basically, to me, it says replace.
Yeah.
As a formal general plan element. So I'm wondering why. One of the reasons I'm reluctant to keep referring back to it is that Todd Lowell kept using that as basically as if that were still part of the general plan, which it wasn't. And I don't want that to keep happening.
So my recommendation would be to take this out because we have determined that most all of this has been superseded and replaced. And this does get us down a rabbit hole of confusion of what is and isn't in effect.
Well, what is interesting though is that is part of the general plan too. It's a policy number 1 on the very next page.
Yeah, I didn't write this.
My recommendation, one of the things that we're finding with the state of California is they're not referring to the zoning code. They're now referring to objective standards. I believe in one of the other sections, we do recommend developing design standards for the town. In this policy, my recommendation is the new policy is the town will prepare design standards and guidelines with specific references to the downtown corridor area. And I think leave it at that because the design standards will be developed after the general plan is adopted. And definitely do not refer to the master plan, the Calthorpe plan, or anything else. Our analysis is those are no longer effective based on Christie reviewing the general plan as it's evolved over the last 20 years.
And it's the policy Jan is referring to on the next page. Policy 1 is the one that talks about the design guidelines, which we didn't adopt, but the zoning ordinance we did implement the town center master plan with the zoning ordinance, at least what we chose to implement. I just don't want to have the same confusion of people thinking that's still part of our official documents.
And did Miguel have a public comment?
Yeah, Miguel, in the chat referenced that Calthorpe plan that had design standards.
And what is
That's
that?
all, yeah, that's all he said. The Calthorpe plan had design standards. And that's this document.
Does that wording get at that, what you were talking about, Andy and Andreas, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm not fond of the word guidelines, given the state's proclivity to require standards.
Okay, well, we could put in standards, leave it. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. How does the committee feel about that wording? Jean, does that address your issue?
I think that would cover it.
I like it.
And also this afternoon, Maureen Valley had forwarded to me a copy of the Town of Winters implementation guidelines or standards. So I did distribute that to the committee members. There you have it.
Yep, and we also received Sonoma. I think Bonnie sent this.
Yeah.
And these are examples of things that you would do following the general plan. And I dare say Winters is probably redoing some of theirs to meet the SB 330 standards. Same here. Many communities are going from guidelines to standards just to keep the state happy or off their back.
And Placer County just adopted a new set for themselves to make the state happy.
Yep.
Mark, can you give us the thumbnail version of what the state is upset about guidelines?
Yes.
Standard, just quickly.
Yes. Essentially what it comes down to, and it's really in the context of housing, is that many communities have design guidelines that can be used to essentially either make a project so that it's fiscally impossible to build, or delay the project for so long that the developer goes away. So with the passage of SB 330, you have to have objective design standards. So that means they have to be measurable, independently measurable standards that are applied to new development, particularly for housing. But it's starting to go that way for all of them. So it's changing it from a subjective, we'll figure it out. We'll know, they have the whole definition of art, right? I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it, to you must be able to measure what the standards are. And it's causing a great deal of grief, Jean, because as you might imagine, communities are proud of their character and they're proud of what they have. And this is seen as a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. So that's why many towns are going to standards that can be objectively measured. Now, I will admit that when I've written them, I provide both standards and guidelines to allow some flexibility and to allow some horse trading to go on. But that's really deep into the weeds on these things.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. If we're happy with this one, we can move on.
Okay. Anybody have anything they want to add or comment, or is there anybody that has their hand up? No?
Okay. This is the next policy. can you see my note, or do I need to make it larger? Can you read that? Is it legible? Let me do this.
I can.
So essentially what this policy says is we're going to put multifamily development between commercial uses and single family uses. From a CEQA perspective, what that means is you're putting more people in that buffer area. Now, I get that you can design a multifamily project such that it has its own buffer in there, but we need to be careful with this sorts of thing. If what we really mean is we're going to provide a transition of uses from commercial to residential and provide uses that can be transitional in that area, that's fine. I just want us to be aware that, you know, the idea of putting more people in harm's way, if you will, if it's not suitable for single family, then it's probably not suitable for apartments either. And so we need to just be leery about doing that sort of thing. So I wasn't sure what the intent of the policy was. And so that's why this note was brought up.
And just for the record, everybody, that is it is in our general plan now on III-18. It's item number 4 under policies for specific areas.
I think this came up, for instance, the Taylor Road mixed use parcel. So that it would, that subdivision that's already in there, so it wouldn't back up directly to commercial. Now, as it's turned out, that's what, single family duplexes and triplexes there, and the carriage houses.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at this and I thought, how far northeast of Sierra College Boulevard are we talking about either? Is there
Yeah, it
more?
looks like it goes on forever, huh, Gene? It's like the end of the world. So we should wordsmith this. I wasn't certain what the intent is. If the intent is to allow some mix of uses in there and to encourage design to create buffers, then let's do that. Let's say that. But the way it reads now is like, let's just cram a bunch of people in there to make them, I mean, because it says to protect the single family, we're going to throw a bunch of apartments in there. And I don't know that that's really what you mean.
Maureen? And you're muted.
Isn't that designated as a OP for office buildings? That lot? Or am I looking at the wrong thing on the map? Like number 1, is that number 1?
Yeah, that says BP, it's business park.
Oh, BP, okay.
And where we're looking at is in the
Down in
GC.
here. Right, it's in general commercial.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Is there anything else besides what is already now going in, the Taylor Road mixed use? Do we have other places along there that this would apply to? I guess there is that one lot that's, are there, how many vacant areas are there?
Yeah, can we look at the vacant lot map?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have that here.
There's that vacant lot between Bank of America.
Yes, at
And-
the corner there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Spec West or something like that?
You can do it.
Right next to it, yeah.
The old
It-
Star Liquor.
And then
Yeah,
there's one blank one between Stone Tree Shopping Center and Hubbard, right?
Yeah.
I knew I had it. I just couldn't figure out where it was. So
Yeah.
in order to make this legible, we had to blow it up. So it looks like there's a little bit of vacant land here. And I'll pull up the aerial as well.
Those are the 2 spots I was talking about.
Of course, let's do it on the main screen and make everybody wait. Thank you. Thank you, Google Earth. Come on. You can do it.
Cool.
Faith in you.
I do love that.
Isn't that cool? when I was a planner, you actually had to get up and go look at a map. Okay, so we're down here. Let me make this smaller. Oops. Why are you not helping me? There we go. So if we put these side by side here, yeah, that was not helpful. We have Sierra College Boulevard right here. And you are not going to fight with me. I will win. You're not my wife. Come on. All right. So Sierra College Boulevard is here. And if we zoom in a little bit, should give us, I'm not seeing, it may not be listed, but so this is the subdivision or the little housing project that I really like. It's interesting that it has different street names than appear on our list here. Here's Tudor Way, which is right here. There's Circle, which I think is really this road right here. But there is some vacant land here and vacant land here. Is that helpful at all? Is it large enough to see? I'm sorry, I can make it larger. Okay.
So we
All
do
right.
have potentially two parcels left that this could apply to.
At least at this end of town, Gene. If we go with the premise that it goes up north, I think the rest of it's really, well, there's a parcel here, right at the switch, which comes up, looks like that.
Well, there's one up at Alice's that far up too.
Right here. Oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. I apologize. And then there's way up
If we
here.
go all that far up.
Right.
Darla
I don't think there's anything wrong with what we've said, which is essentially we'll allow a mixed use in that area if the committee's up for that. Going back to the policy statement, I think you would just end it here.
But you did say something about, making sure that buffer or design guidelines or something that we want to make sure that that's in there. Or
absolutely. Parcel develop commercial uses along with office, residential behind commercial, with adequate buffers. Oops, all caps. With buffer appropriate.
Somebody have their hand up? Yeah. Miguel? Go ahead, Miguel.
Yeah, my point is that you can't quite see all this buffering. Let's take the example of the piece of property next to Bank of America. So what we're saying, they could put a commercial building on the front and then have a house in the back to buffer it. Is that what we're saying?
Buffer is sort of just a planning term. There needs to be some consideration for something between the uses, Miguel. Traditionally, a buffer is distance, but it can also be a wall. It could be a different type of building in between the two. It's just a catch-all phrase for considering that we have adjacent uses that might not be compatible. I guess the larger question for the committee is, do we want to allow housing in these areas? Or do we want Taylor Road to stay resident or stay commercial?
My input, this is Tim. My input on that is, primarily it should be designated for commercial, but we shouldn't like turn our nose to potentially a mixed use type of project, right? Where potentially living on the bottom work on the bottom and housing on top. I don't see a lot of that happening, and everything's pretty much built out downtown, but suppose somebody does a major remodel on their unit. The live work thing is kind of in right now, and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. So I don't think that we should oppose residential in the event if it makes sense, right? Again, I think that, you know, we want to dedicate most of that area for commercial, but maybe there's some unique possibility out there that we're not thinking of right now. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also have another lot that we didn't talk about, which is between US Bank and High Hand. It's where the Pine Star is going. I mean, it is a blank lot right now. Just throwing that out there is another area. It's right downtown.
Mhm.
And
It's not backing up to housing, but I don't know.
We do have a mixed use over the old main drug. There's the laundromat, yeah, and it's a pretty cool living situation for. And speaking to the owners, there's people that really love living in that manner.
Yeah, I lived for a while in a downtown location over a bank, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
There's also those old homes that are used as commercial near the iChicks, right? And those homes there, they were once, I believe, residentially used.
Oh, I'm in a Zoom meeting. Bye-bye.
And they're used now as commercial, but you know, who knows? Somebody might want to work and live there, right? So it's not like it's unprecedented.
Right. So what if we, Ramona has her hand up. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ramona.
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with Tim. I think we should not leave it to exclusively commercial along Taylor, especially with the vacant lots, because I would like to encourage like a second story live above commercial space. You know, economically, it's one thing if it's viable for someone to do it, but we shouldn't exclude it, because to me, as single story, you know, we have a lot of single story along Taylor Road, but I would like to encourage a little bit more two-story activity where the top story could be dedicated to residents. It seems like it would be much more valuable use of our land, because we don't have much land in Loomis to encourage both commercial and residential development.
I agree.
We do something like that as a policy, which essentially puts people on notice that we would like it to be commercial, but you may consider residential uses later, and then we can deal with it in the land use designation table. Unless you want to be more specific. Some communities prohibit residential from fronting on a main drag, although I have seen some designs that suggest that kind of prohibition may not be warranted in all cases. But you know, if you want to mandate ground floor commercial, we can do that. It's really up to the will of the town what you would like to see along that corridor.
Well, I think it depends on how big the parcels are we're talking about too. There's some really tiny ones.
Mm-hmm.
So seems like we should kind of keep options.
So does this work?
To add to the discussion, there's those houses on Horseshoe Bar as you weave in next to the Veterans Hall, not next to, but you know, they're used currently. They're part of the old Village project. Those are used currently as residential, but those, you know, there's nothing to say that wouldn't be a good fit for commercial and residential there also. So that's just another place that we may want to keep open for discussions and future proposals.
Thank you, Tim.
Miguel? Okay.
The property we're talking about down by the bank and in that area, those two parcels, my question would be, how does that affect the neighbors that are already there? Does it overlook their backyard, their swimming pools, or their private activities if we put 2 stories there? Or is it, how would we handle that? I'm not sure.
Miguel, I think we already have policies in town that address two-story residential next to existing residential. Can we cover that in another committee, or am I making that up?
So that was Russ Kelly, actually.
I'm sorry, Miguel.
It's okay.
Thank
Got
you.
a little confused there for a second. So before we go to Miguel, let's talk about Russ's point. Is there any residential that is butting up to these potential, these vacant parcels? Because it seems like it's.
I
Are we
think
talking
there
about
is.
the two smaller ones or the one up by Alice's?
Can I recommend to the committee that we don't focus on vacant parcels, because somebody could come in here, tear down a building and build a new building. So we really should be looking at what is the policy of the town of Loomis for this general commercial area along Taylor Road, because you just never know what's going to happen in the future. And so I think the policy should be broad enough to cover, I guess we don't have redevelopment anymore, but it's possible that somebody comes in and decides to do something else.
I concur.
Could we put back in though, something about, we've now, just the blue takes out, well, okay, maybe you left in with appropriate buffers. It should be for the adjacent single family residence, I think, because proposed uses doesn't say anything about the reason we're concerned. Can we get that back in there somehow?
Sure.
I think you're right. We do have that somewhere else. We have that in some other guidelines, but I believe it was all residential second story houses adjacent to single family or backing up to, or to neighbors.
Am I reading the blue? Can you explain it? Am I reading the blue to say that we could put out, you're saying straight house and
Well,
no commercial? I mean,
well,
don't we want mixed use?
We do have a mixed use, and if we want to use that, then we would change the designation on the map. That's where you want to go.
Yeah.
We
So the
can-
general commercial allows mixed use.
It does, yeah.
So I think the point here is, as a policy, and I would agree with Jenny that we're looking for mixed uses rather than just residential up against.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, last time, didn't we say we wanted mixed use structures rather than projects?
Mixed use structures are in a different zoning designation. We have three different,
Commercial designations?
yeah,
Okay,
a variety of uses tied to those designations and what they can do if it's above or beside or things like that. So the town center commercial mixed use points to in a mixed use structure. The general commercial gives you a little more flexibility on having it above, behind, and things like that. And that's all in zoning, along with window placements for second story units that
Okay.
look down upon neighboring residential.
That's good.
now, before it had office in there, do we want to include office? Or is that going to be covered by commercial? Because currently it would allow, currently our commercial allows some office, but Andrews was talking about we need to make a separate office commercial designation. I mean, office professional. So the idea was it could be housing behind, or it could be offices. In other words, not such a not so busy a commercial
Okay.
business right behind the houses.
And I recall the land use, from the land use committee, the general commercial does allow offices and residential. So I think we're having it covered here. So
Okay.
we have to focus, this policy is really on what does it look like, and we're encouraging for this area a mix of uses. So
Okay, does that work? I mean, I don't like amorphous terms, but we could also go back to commercial if you like.
Miguel had his hand up and now it's down.
No, it's back up.
Okay, go for it, Miguel.
Yeah, I have a real problem when you state that from a zoning standpoint, commercial can have residential. That's a problem we run into. Commercial is commercial. It shouldn't be residential. So I don't know what the other committee, but if you're planning a city and you want commercial use, but there's an option for residential, and that's kind of what happened at behind Rayleigh's. Idea there was it was supposed to be commercial, but in our zoning law or general plan somewhere, it says it can be commercial or residential, and it doesn't work. If you want commercial, you need to keep it just commercial, not or residential. So then your commercial property all could become residential. You don't have the tax base.
Thank you. Matt Fox has his hand up. Go for it, Matt.
There we go. I just got unmuted. Just real quick, I'm just wondering if we can be a little more specific on the where it says just general commercial designation northeast of Sierra College. Is that the whole town or just that section kind of is, where does that end, I guess?
Pull up the map again because it shows where it ends on the land use. Yes, there you
go. I would say that that's not clear because
maybe
there's more general commercial farther northeast of that, right?
That's correct, and also along Horseshoe Bar.
So I was just thinking maybe it'd be more clear if we stated where that specifically ends. So because otherwise you can look at that description and say, okay, there's general commercial properties farther northeast that could be covered by that as well. It was just a little vague to me.
And that map is just the vacant land map for that area. Mark, do you have the committee area map that shows the land use designations for this committee?
Yes, I do.
I knew you would. There you go. So
yes. So by that description,
it goes from here to there.
Right. That's. I'm just thinking that could be debatable in the future if it's not clear.
So in other words, Matt, you're saying we should designate like the southerly red half of this and we're not ready to talk about the other part yet?
Right. I mean, if you want to apply that to the whole thing, then you should probably change it to say northeast to the northern town limits, or modify it to say northeast till whatever street that is. Is that Circle Drive or whatever? I can't tell, but
yeah, it's Circle Drive.
And it actually goes a little bit past there. So it was just a little confusing to me. That's kind of why I brought it up.
Fair enough.
This might be a good place for another diagram to get dropped in.
Yep. So does the committee, to Matt's point, is the committee just thinking this area here? Or are we thinking the whole length of town?
We probably don't know because we haven't really looked carefully at the other end of town.
I would put to you that it's going to get slim pickings up here if you want to protect any industrial land. But
oh, okay.
Because we don't want to put people get affected by industry, but they also curtail industrial activity for a variety of reasons. And as we already know, because we already have issues here. So I tend to be careful very much about adding residential uses next to existing industrially designated land because I want to protect the industrial uses. And I know that seems a little topsy-turvy. Everybody's worried about people, but when people start encroaching in an area where it's dusty, noisy, smelly, all those things, then they start to complain, and that eventually becomes an issue for the business owner. So it's a two-way street for a lot of these things.
I'm wondering, at least on the southerly part that we've been talking about, if maybe what we're getting toward is we don't really want to leave the residential part in there at all. We want to just say commercial, maybe with the buffering toward the adjacent residential and not include that residential aspect. I don't know what the rest of you think.
Well, it was in the general plan last time. And because of that, we did get that, that project that's being built right now with the, both commercial and the duplexes.
And I think that was the parcel that was particularly in mind when this was written, which is quite a bit deeper parcel than those two smaller ones. On the other hand, the one up at Alice's is a big chunk too. So that one probably needs to be looked at. Well, we've got that coming up later for request anyway.
Mhm.
But doesn't general commercial land use give the opportunity for mixed use anyway?
Already.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what you guys told us.
So unless we change the land use designations, it is already that way.
Right, I just don't think we need to reference the residential. To me, it's confusing.
I mean, there's no reason to have the policy at all unless there's something specific we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Do we really need that in there anymore?
Out.
If we took it out, I don't think it's going to hurt particularly. And as I said, I think the parcel that they were particularly concerned about is the Taylor Road mixed use, which has already happened.
So the only thing that I think this is offering up is that buffering statement. Have we needed to use that in the last 20 years? Is that?
But wouldn't the zoning already have that in it? Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, for mixed use projects, it would be a requirement.
So it's already there. We don't need to bring it up again.
Right.
But it wouldn't be is it someplace that a commercial backing up to residential needs buffering? Maybe we just need to put a very simple policy about that.
And that's already included in the zoning code.
Okay.
There's no reason we couldn't add a policy to support that if you wanted to. I bring this up, and it's in purple because the Land Use Umbrella Committee hasn't finished this, but you can see that the existing general plan already allows 2 to 10 units per acre within the general commercial land use designation.
As for specific sites, not for every place, right? In other words, they're only in the specific place areas.
Yeah, but I don't have a map of those.
Those included specific areas included the business park, north of Rayleigh's, in other words, the village. RE at Rockland Road in Barton, which we covered in a different one. General commercial on Taylor, northeast of Sierra College, one we're doing now, and Turtle Island commercial. Those were the specific areas that talk about some of those policies.
So that would pretty much be every piece of GC that we have in town, right?
No, it was. Well, what it was, I
guess except for this piece, right?
It has to tell you in each of those what things are allowed, and that one was, I think, the village. That's how they got away with stuff in there.
Okay, well, we're going to be clarifying all that, so it kind of comes back to the committee now. Do we need this policy at all? And if not, we can delete it and move on.
Maybe we don't need to refer to the area so much as just a general policy that's, well, but Mary Beth said we don't need it. It was just the one about commercial abutting adjacent to residential should be buffered, but she said that's already included someplace else.
Tell you what,
I'd say take it out. Now you guys can talk about it.
I'm going to say commercial uses abutting resident, existing or planned. So we'll have to modify that. Let's just leave it in as a placeholder for now. And this may end up coming up as an implementation piece. But this way, at least it's in here and it will be considered by the full land use committee when they take it on. And maybe it is covered elsewhere. Looking at these things, individual pieces can be a little frustrating, I know. This is also something that I would expect to be in the design standards.
Could we make it commercial uses shall buffer abutting existing, because we're trying to protect the residential, not the commercial.
I think you're trying to protect both, but we can do that.
Okay, anybody have anything they want to add to that? Okay, let's move on.
All right. Implementation measure. This seems pretty much a no-brainer, but for the pleasure of the committee.
Mark, we don't want to amend the zoning ordinance with development and design standards. That is a separate document the way we're going now.
Okay, so how about that work?
Yep.
And then is it downtown core or just downtown?
Oh, what did we decide?
The gateway. So if you take, if that map you just had up, it showed the extent of the downtown and the gateway area.
This one? Yeah.
Yes.
So we're just calling it downtown, not core. You are good. Good catch.
So do we need to say downtown and gateway, or they're gateway having its own separate ones?
There's just, honestly, Andy, do we need to differentiate? Why don't we just say prepare and adopt design standards for the town?
Up above though in the policy, we did talk about doing that. And then we said, but have specific policies for downtown.
All right, so let's do and gateway.
That's good.
Okay, fair enough. This doesn't mean that we won't do for the rest of the town. It just means that there would be specific policies for these areas.
I believe in the land use element, we do have call for design standards in the rest of the town, Mark. So this is just specific to the commercial.
Perfect. Okay. And then this is just redundant. And this speaks to Gene's removal of confusion.
Looks good to me.
Okay, so I will save this and ask the committee, is there anything that we need to add? Or should we move on to requested property designation changes?
How about we get a vote on this before we move forward, just so it's clear in the minutes?
And we'll be voting on all the changes so far?
Do you want me to scroll up, Chair, so that people
That
can
is correct.
Yes, please.
How about I do this? Come on, show me. Show me. Fine. I'll do it the hard way. Does that help, or would you rather see it with track changes on?
Could you make 5A as centers instead of a center, because they're two separate things? Blue Goose and Blue Anchor as centers.
Like that?
Yeah.
do we need to, and maybe I'm thinking just randomly right now, but we're going to possibly have a nice, another support area for community activity on the other side of High Hand. So,
Oh, yeah.
do we need to talk about that anywhere there or not?
That's a good idea.
Does
No,
it
we-
matter that it's a commercial rather than a town-owned project?
I don't know. I mean, it's town property right now. I don't know what will happen, but we want to focus that as a place for community activity. That's what we're hoping for there.
I think the reason we had that on there was because it was town property. Is that not right?
Mhm.
And now we're going to be.
But right
selling-
now, currently, it is town property where I'm
Right, but
talking
there's-
about.
But
it's
they're
gonna be
selling
sold.
it.
We're selling
Well,
it.
But it's not.
We don't know that. I mean, you know, we have to base it on what we have right now.
So then would it be,
Well,
It's just designating that area as we want it to have community activity, I guess is what I'm thinking.
Perhaps a general and other town public
opportunities or something?
properties.
I mean, I think that's a good
Future.
point for any place, because
Yeah.
there's even other areas on the other side that we would want to have some community centers.
So maybe we're talking about town property.
Yeah, because it's probably a little, it could be construed miscorrectly if we list names of things that are private, but we don't list all of them.
Right.
But the fact that what we have listed is specific town-owned property gathering spots.
Yeah, from my perspective, this doesn't preclude you from adding spots later, whether
Okay.
it's town-owned or private. This just recognizes what we already have.
Okay.
That was
Can we-
the reason for that.
Can we just put something at the end of that sentence that says, and any other opportunities that come up, or so we can say that it's not just specific to those two?
How about that?
That's good.
So it lists them as a use. It doesn't say.
Yeah, and Mark, just start the word with support, take out continue to.
So is this a place where you would also add the library area?
It's,
Well, we got something about that in number
Number
4.
4, yeah.
but that doesn't answer, or to Jenny's point, do you think A supports other areas? Should we
Right,
say?
from my perspective, you could put 4 as C on here and call it good.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Mark.
And to Jenny's point, I think the such as in A leaves open the possibility for others.
Okay.
Like that?
Great. That's much more organized.
Semicolon at the end of A.
Yeah, I haven't been dealing with those.
Okay.
It's like random punctuation throughout the whole document.
Mary Beth, are you trying to compete with Gene and Andreas? Come on.
There's an extra space before the C in create at number
Oh,
4.
Lord.
I think I'm going to have to throw something heavy at Andreas. There we go. Thank
All
you.
right. Is
What
everybody
you're
okay?
saying is I wasn't wrong about my comment, though.
You were not wrong. Never, ever tell an attorney they're wrong.
All right, so do we need to look at the rest of the policies? Is that it? That's it, right?
That's it.
That 3 looks funny by itself. I just pointed it out.
It's
That's
hanging
what
out.
we-
And I am not an editor. I don't edit anything, so.
And just for the committees to understand, because some of these are being taken out, the numbering will change. So when you see it all together, if the numbers are a little wonky, that's why.
All right, committee, anybody have anything that they want to add? And any members of the public? And if not, do I hear a motion to accept these changes?
Miguel.
Oh, Miguel.
Miguel, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. You're going to need to define community activities. If I'm going to put in a restaurant, and actually the land there next to High Hand is in the process of being sold, so it's not a maybe. And a person has a restaurant and a variety of other things. What do you mean by community activities? What do I have to put in there? Do I have to put in something? Don't understand. And also, High Hand, while they have, does that mean if I have a fundraiser, that's a community activity? Because I'm not sure what you really mean by community activities.
Christy, do we have a definition of that in our glossary?
I don't think so, but I will check. Hang on.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to, the properties being sold. Right now, the town owns the property that
They're in negotiations with.
So it's still
person
owned by the
selling.
town right now. That is.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you can't.
Well, the town has entered into negotiations to sell it, okay?
And the council passed an agreement.
No.
It failed to close last year too. So it's all negotiating. It could not sell and close for years. It's not done.
Right. At the time of this document, it's not done.
But it might be done by the time this gets adopted sometime next year.
Well.
Then we'll know.
Yeah. And they could be changed then, I guess.
I don't know if we need to define community activity. And
think
we've only mentioned, the specifics that we mentioned are only basically two town-owned facilities. We haven't mentioned any private.
Right, we didn't even mention that other
facilities.
property.
And it's not in the glossary.
Thank you, Christy.
If
Miguel?
the committee may remember, we spent quite a bit of time wordsmithing this particular sentence and left it, I think, purposefully vague because some of this is managed by a private concern. And the idea was it's just basically a place for gathering where you could have community events such as Christmas tree lighting or what have you. We can certainly define community activity, but we can also just call it just continue to support Blue Goose and Anchor Park. But the committee wordsmith this. Let's see if I've got that.
It seems like those other activities are covered under the next item, item 5. It's gone now. I can't read what it is, but
This one here?
item 5, provide variety of places where you can live, work, play, and shop. If worst case, put together in there, but I think that covers everything that we didn't cover above in item number 4.
Thank you. And Miguel has his hand up again.
Well, not really. I'm just thinking, okay, I'm a developer, I buy the property. I want to put in a restaurant, a parking lot, outdoor seating. Is somebody going to say you need to provide for community activities? And what are they?
We didn't say that they have to provide that.
Nope.
You could say community events.
But there are activities that aren't necessarily events. I think if we define community activity, we may be limiting things that are really pretty informal.
yeah, I think I like how it's worded. I'd like to make a motion to accept the changes.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Second on Durko.
Can we have roll call, please?
Yeah, just give me a second here. So this is a motion to accept the revisions to the policy within this subcommittee, correct?
Up until the implementation
The
measures,
goals,
correct?
policies, and implementation measures. As amended.
Okay, the goals, policies, and implementations as. Got it. Okay, goals, policies, and proceed and implementation measures as amended.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now that I got that straight. Jan Clark Kretz,
Aye.
Bonnie London,
Said yes.
Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jenny Nisley,
Yes.
Tim Anderko,
Yes.
Maureen Valley,
Yes.
Ryan DiMartini.
Yes.
Thank you.
A question, who seconded that?
Tim,
On Durko.
Thank you.
All right. So if it please the committee, we typically, after we've done the policies, we move on to We move on to requested land use changes. So we have, we don't have many. We have a couple within our purview, and I'll pull up the text here. Is that the requested land use changes? No. Oh, don't you argue with me. Thank you. There we go. Land use changes. Before I pull up the main list, are there any changes that the committee wants to discuss on their own?
Things that are not on the list, you mean? I
Yes.
assume that.
Yes.
Did we end up putting the business park into the other CR College committee?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, no.
Okay, so moving right along, we do have, I thought we talked about this already. Limited industrial area along Swetzer Road, map site number 2. I believe I have that here.
I think we might have talked about that already, and really it's more of a zoning issue of what land uses would be allowed in there or not.
And
as a result, this particular request will forward through the process for when we update the zoning code.
where would you like me to make that note, or will you just remember, Mary Beth?
Yeah. Yeah,
I think we can, if Carol could just make a note of it in the minutes, that map site 2 will proceed forward to the zoning amendments based on the adopted general plan.
Basically, she wants a review of the uses along there to make sure that they're still compatible.
Yeah.
Mary, can you reread, what am I putting specifically in the notes here?
That land use change request for map site number 2 will proceed with the zoning amendments of the adopted general plan after approval.
Okay.
Could we add so we know what she's wanting? She wants a review.
It's already in here, Jean.
Yeah, this whole text will
Okay.
go forward with the zoning
Okay.
based on the adopted general.
That's fine then.
Okay, then moving on to map site number 3. which is where exactly?
It's right under the ILT. It is, we talked
Oh,
about
it's
it with
right
the
here.
Sierra College Boulevard Committee, and they voted to change that to ILT.
Okay, so here's the property here.
Sierra College, what?
Right here.
It's at the corner of King and Swetzer.
But Sierra College voted on that?
Yeah, it's just outside of our mapped boundary for this committee. So it happened to just fall in, but I thought it kind of affects this committee as well. So that's why it's on this agenda also.
Okay. I think I would support the change. I don't see any housing going on that corner right there.
That was the gist of the committee discussion too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really weird corner to have yeah, no housing.
The main concern here was access, because it's pretty tight there. You know, there's lots of things going on, but it was felt that by the committee, if I recall a discussion, that they could figure it out, that commercial, because this was specifically requested. So we deal with that at the project level, not at the general plan level.
This is the one that the empty lot that backs up to the strip mall with Woody's and stuff back there. And it's the same owner as the purple one right above it. They want to expand.
Right.
Correct.
That.
It's right here.
So if it's not likely to get another strip mall right there or something, or commercial, the other committee said, you know, go ahead and make it the purple, make it ILT.
And I believe we also talked about it being far enough away from the houses that it shouldn't be much of an issue. Okay, moving along. Map site number 4 or number 8.
You're going to go up.
Oh, is it up?
Yeah, and over. There you go.
There it is. So here's what the request is. Whoa, why do you do these things? I can't be the only person that yells at their computer.
You're not.
Okay, there we go. I apologize. See, you're making me look bad.
And this one is an open-ended request. It wasn't quite a request with something specific in mind.
Yeah, it was more a request for the town to help him figure out the best use of that property. And typically in our world, people have a piece of property that they have a goal to do something with, and then we work with them to see that dream come true. In this case, it's really, without knowing what they want to do with it, it's hard for us to recommend what they should do with it.
Does it say, it says on here that his mom had a permanent easement placed on the property by PG&E for a gas receiver station? Is it, maybe perhaps that's what they want to do?
That's already installed now.
Okay.
Yeah, they did that and then thought, oh, what should we do with the rest of the property?
Mary Beth, do you know where that is on the property, and how big is this parcel, and how much of it does that take up? It was like 0.98, so it's basically an acre of it. How much is left?
So it's a 3/4 acre
Is
property.
left? 3/4 acre is left?
No, it's a 3/4 acre easement. And it's to one side of the property, if I remember correctly.
And it's at Alice's fruit stand.
No.
So how much is left for them to work with? And I don't know anything about what the PG&E thing put in, you know, what is that what kind
Yeah.
of constraints might that be putting on it as far as what should go in there? I have no idea.
They would
Yeah.
have to stay out of that easement area. It's very dedicated at this point in time.
I mean, honestly, the property this small, it's got general commercial designation on it. It gives them quite a bit of flexibility. If they don't know what they want, we can't tell them.
Right.
So,
No, but it's good to hear that they want ideas and maybe other people out there might
sure,
talk with them. So
absolutely. But they have the most flexible zoning that the town has right now.
What
Because
is,
the
what is
town-
in the GC above it?
Allison's fruit stand.
There's
I'm
and
trying to picture, is that the feed place?
Nope. It's Allison.
Isn't that right here? No, that's Holt.
is it the rock guy?
Isn't the landscaping, or is the property's right here, isn't it?
no,
Where's
it's
that? Where's Alice's? Find Alice's, then we'll know where we are.
Oh, well,
We have to go up,
you're
right?
going,
The big orange, isn't the big orange still there? Or peach, I guess.
Farther north, Mark.
Yeah.
Alice's fruit stands on the other side of Del Oro, on the other side of the feed store.
yeah, you gotta go, keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah, okay. So there's the feed store.
It's,
Right in there.
yep.
Oh, right at the top there.
Keep going at the top, the circular looking building, right there in the center.
That's Alice's, okay.
And then you can see where the PG&E area is designated out of that on the lower portion. There you go. All of that area is the easement area for PG&E.
This area here?
Yep.
Wow. Thank you, PG&E.
Couple hands up.
Miguel?
Yeah, you have the right area now. So that's the PG&E easement, and they put in their big gas transfer line. So I agree with Mark. Leave it the way, zone the way, the other little piece of property. I don't think it's Alice's. This is another owner that has, there you go. Keep going down. It's right. Right.
It hasn't updated on that map yet.
Yeah, it hasn't updated on the street view.
Yeah, I think it's between the Rock Place and Alice's.
Okay, so this area here.
Yeah,
Miguel?
yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right. So
Okay.
I would agree to leave it. I mean, it's almost an unusable piece of property after the easement.
Yeah, it does seem to take a big chunk out of it, unless they can put parking or something, but it's PG&E. They usually don't play well with others.
Look, thank you, Miguel. Looks like Matt Fox has his hand up.
Hang on, Matt. Okay, you're free.
There we go. I was gonna say, I think you've misinterpreted I think his comment actually applies to the entire property, including the fruit stand and the easement.
Can you say, I'm sorry, can you say that just a tiny bit slower?
I think the comment that was submitted, I think you're misinterpreting it, that I'm pretty sure that applies to that entire, both the fruit stand and the easement property.
Got it.
So it's that whole GC area on that side of the road, not just that little triangular piece.
Oh, so it's the whole thing here?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same owner of everything right there. So I think they've been trying to figure out for a while what to do with the property. So I think he's kind of, whoever submitted that comment is talking about that whole area. I don't know if that makes a difference as far as whether because you change it or tell them what to do with it, but
so what's the will of the committee? Do you just leave it as it is and move on and have Mary Beth and the town continue to work with this property owner, figure out what they want?
and then, sorry, one other thing, well, before I get muted again, there's a little chunk of red kind of just north of the RM right there. I don't know that makes sense to be red. It's a house. It's a single family house right now, surrounded on 3 sides by other homes. There's probably about 8 homes that back up to it. I can't imagine anybody ever tearing that down and doing something commercial there, but it's just kind of a weird, just strikes me as kind of a weird place to put something commercial. And it's up on a hill, so it sits about, 10, 20 feet above the neighboring homes.
This piece right here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is not anything that has been requested,
Correct.
but a good point.
Should we perhaps ask the people, would they prefer to have a residential zoning like the ones next door? Or do we just leave it because he didn't ask?
I mean, I'm sure they would prefer it to be commercial because it gives them options in the future.
That's true.
But just throwing that out there, I mean, it's not going to affect me personally one way or another, but just thought I'd throw that out there for the committee to consider.
I think if they haven't asked, it just stays that way, and then they come in and,
Maybe Mrs. Lemus would love to build some low-income apartments on her big lot. That's all right.
That'll be the question that gets asked after we're through this, Gene.
Ramona?
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the request for the zoning or the land use change away from general commercial. And I don't think that I would leave it as general commercial. It is very broad and flexible. So I wouldn't encourage it to be anything else, because it, especially next to the high school there, I wouldn't, want to split or whatever the purple is right on the other side of the general commercial. I wouldn't be in favor of that. You'll kind of end up with a funny little piece, just like Matt Fox pointed out, that there's that funny little general commercial in the middle of creating the same situation.
And actually, I think that where you have it, the 8, I think that's the rock place. So I think you've got it totally wrong on that map. Or is that the feed store? Because you got the P.
And that could be because we were given 2 different addresses when the request came in initially.
Yes, I think the 8 is actually the feed store and the rock thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then where it says GC is where that comment actually applies to. But.
Okay, Miguel has his hand up.
Good question. Are those 2 properties, or what used to be Mrs. Lemus, does she still own it? And is it all one property that we're looking at where the gas easement is, or are those 2 pieces of property?
It's one property.
Okay.
Miguel,
My other comment is that other little teeny commercial up at the top would present nothing but problems if it ever went commercial with the house. I would assume we have one person that lives there on the committee. If that little parcel went commercial, I think it should go back to residential personally. Resolve the problem before it happens.
Thank you.
And
So
Miguel, yes, Mrs. Lemus does still own it, I believe, because the grandson, Brett here, had called me way at the beginning of this process and said his grandmother wanted to know what to do with the property. And so I just referred him to Mary Beth, but apparently she does still own it. She was the owner of Lemus Ranch that became Legacy.
She should build homes like was planned there one time. There was an extensive subdivision plan, but it was regraded so it wasn't sticking up in the air and all. It was a good subdivision, but they never went through with it.
That was the one that the neighbors came and yelled at the planning commission and called us names and things, threw things at us.
Wasn't me.
All right, committee, what say you on this? Just leave it? Does anybody disagree with that? Do we need a a vote here, or how do you want us to handle that?
We've been asking the committees to vote to
Okay.
keep on.
So the vote, I guess, or a motion? Okay, Bonnie moves to leave it. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Who was that second?
Jennifer, whatever you call me.
Jenny? Okay, and that is a motion to leave item number 8, request number 8 as is.
Yes, correct.
Motion, Jan Clark Fritz,
Yes.
Connie London,
Yes.
Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jenny Nicely,
Yes,
Tim Anderko. Maureen Valley,
Maureen?
I was muted, sorry. Yes.
Ryan D. Martini.
Yes.
Okay, did we ever, Tim is not on,
He's there. I'm not
He's
sure.
here, but he's muted.
okay, so he did not answer my call, correct?
No.
Okay. Got it, okay, thanks.
All right, this next one is map site 16.
This one's fun. Oh.
So this has been added in to your committee because we extended the boundary down Horseshoe Bar Road over here. So site 16 is right there, yeah, right above the Rayleighs.
Oh, 16.
And this is a request to change from TC to GC.
CC to GC, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, TC, yeah. So that's not right.
Is this Final Perkins property?
Correct.
Yes. That parcel is 3 acres.
And the reason the other subcommittee voted to keep it as is because it would affect the housing element because of the density difference, that we'd have to find some more land for housing.
Does the committee want any more information on that? So basically, if this zoning goes in, if we change it, then we have to find places for the houses that were meant to go there somewhere else. It's called no net loss.
And Christy, do you know offhand how many units we'd have to find if that changed?
No, I don't. Did I? Let me see if I put it in the assessment. I did
Yeah.
not.
Quite a bit.
I'm opening the housing element now. I'll double check.
Thank you, Lucy.
Absolutely. We have a public comment.
This is Dave Daly. I heard earlier that you moved the Green Valley deal to another part. I thought that whole thing got removed. I thought the application got withdrawn for the Green Valley.
Oh, Green Business Park?
Yes.
Out at Sierra College?
Yes, that got withdrawn, right?
That application was withdrawn by the applicant.
We haven't really talked about that today.
But you talked about it just earlier.
No.
You said something about the Green Valley.
I don't think so. No, not today's meeting. But it was withdrawn.
Talked about the Taylor Road mixed use project. But the Sierra College project isn't part of the purview of this committee.
So I have that site for the housing element. It has an allowable density of 54 units, and we're relying on 43 of those. So you'd have to make up the allowable density elsewhere.
So 43.
43.
And we're already, yeah, short.
Although with vacant properties, there's no guarantee you're gonna get residential on them till they're built anyway. It's just vacant, and based on zoning, it could happen that way. So you can't force them to put 43 units there under the existing land use designation.
Hey, Lucy, the GC, oh, this isn't one of the areas that allows housing, is it? Okay, never mind. I'll be quiet again. We say the GC land use designation has 10 units to the acre, but not in this particular site. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So we would have to make up and find places for 43 more units someplace else, right? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes, yes, and that's why the previous committee left it be, or one of the reasons anyway. The other reason is that the committee didn't have anything in front of them to suggest that the design wouldn't be a problem in that area. And they thought it would be better left to the commission and to the council to look at with a specific project in front of them.
And the town, oh, do we have a public comment? Go ahead.
Are we talking about the village project? Like we're short the 40 units or whatever you're talking about? Is that the project we're talking about?
No, it's the parcel this side of Burger King. There's two parcels there. There's one 3-acre parcel, one 2-acre parcel. So it's immediately sort of Burger King.
Okay. But you said that we were short 40 units. Is that for our low-income housing? Is that the 40 units that you're referring to?
Based on the vacant land inventory and what could be built there, 43 units could be built there.
But we're not actually short 40 units. We're short 400 low-income units because the lady threw all the low-income units in the village project, which she told us earlier that would never happen. So we're not short 40 units. We're short over 400 low-income units.
So is the task for this committee this is just for our knowledge, Christy?
No, since it's in your committee area, if there's a discussion and if it would
So-
ultimately go to the land use umbrella committee, but if there is some discussion you'd like to add to this, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you. Anybody have any?
I was muted. I have a question.
For it,
I was
Jenny.
talking to myself. I just wonder if we leave this as it's designated and the owner of that property do they have an opportunity later to come back to the planning commission to ask before it's approved? Like if they don't like the committee's suggestion,
Absolutely.
so there's
Yes.
time. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the reasoning with the last committee was it might just be best for them to follow that path to go to the planning commission and then go to the council.
And their first method after the subcommittee is the umbrella land use committee. So I wouldn't doubt that they would show up at that meeting to express their desires for that lot to the umbrella committee.
Mary Beth, do you have any idea what specifically he is concerned about, why he wants to change?
What I've known just historically is he wants to do a drive-through type service, and that isn't allowed in the current designation. It's allowed in the Rayleigh site, the GC land use designation, but not on the existing where it goes to CC.
Ramona has her hand up.
Yeah, in my opinion, I would not
Dude, your internet.
recommend changing it from its to me leaving or not. Yeah.
Can you repeat, Ramona? Sorry, you're breaking
No.
up.
Uh-oh, sorry. I would not recommend changing it at all. It's one thing to have done the Rayleigh Center to be general commercial, but to me, to extend that further as you head into, what would be more of the downtown core area, I would like it to stay with what it is to me, better transition as you head into the historic downtown area, and leave it so that it would be a mix of higher density residential, if possibility there, as well as commercial uses, if that makes sense. I like that it seems to be more in line with, as you walk towards or towards the downtown area or drive towards the downtown area, that it transitions into that town's core kind of type of use, rather than extending the Rayleigh's type of strip commercial further into the downtown area, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Ramona. Anybody else have any comments? And if there is none, there's.
I just had the question if Vinyl Perkins got the chance to be notified about this being discussed at all today.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
If we change that one, then it leaves Paul Johnson next door with the only designation. And then if he decides he wants to do that too, we've got even more units that we might have to accommodate and find places for. I don't see any good reason to change it. And I'm not sure we want to drive through right there anyway. I kind of agree with Ramona. If we're trying to make a transition and make a coherent kind of a T of Taylor Road and Horseshoe Bar, I think we have more potential to do that if we kind of make these two properties sort of more like the traditional part of things, rather than a Rayleigh's type look, strip mall look.
So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, I don't hear anybody wanting to change it. Is that true?
I don't think I can make a determination based on this information. I mean, I think I wouldn't want to change it because I don't think I have enough here to make that decision.
So is there anybody that would like to make a motion either to keep it the same or to make the change?
Could I ask a question, Mary Beth? His property would be where Doc Barnes Drive would have gone through. Is that in the circulation element still on the books? So that would have to come off of the side of his property still?
That is correct. That the portion that borders the GC triangle, there has to be a dedicated right of way for the extension of Doc Barnes Drive in that area.
Okay, thank you.
So I move that we keep it as it is for now.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Okay, we have got Jen Clark-Kretz,
Yes.
Bonnie London. Yes. Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jenny Nisley,
yes.
Tim Andarko. Maureen Valley
Yes.
and Ryan DiMartini.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I think we have one more.
Yes, so now you have site 17, which is, you can see it on the screen still. It's at Webb
Yeah.
Street.
Till things started to.
You had it there, Mark.
Oh, isn't it amazing? Not
And
loading computer right now. It's right here in the middle.
yes, there you go. Keep zooming. So this was a request made by a non-property owner. And they were looking at changing a lot that has medium density residential to become town center commercial, specifically to relocate the Golden Eagle Auto Repair Shop. And it was not the owner of the auto repair shop who made this request. So neither the landowner or the repair shop made this request.
And has anybody reached out to the owner?
Yeah, there was a letter sent to the property owner. Not a response has not been received. The existing house that's on that parcel has been vacant for a while. I know the property owner lives out of town, out of state even. There are many different interesting things with this. If you continued this GC to that side and made it commercial, it would be considered town center, you know, downtown commercial. And even Golden Eagle isn't allowed at their current place as an auto body repair shop. So moving that to the other side of the tracks doesn't get them what they're after. If they were to move anywhere, it would be in the ILT or IL zone, or yeah, exactly.
Okay. So this request was made not by the owner, and we've not heard from the owner. What is the committee's wish?
Yeah.
There was
So,
a question.
yeah,
whether
what
this
Bonnie
was
asked is if Golden Eagle was grandfathered in at their current location, and that is accurate. If they vacate that existing location for more than 6 months, that use will go away. And it would have to conform to the existing uses within that zoning district.
So I move that we just keep it the way it is.
All right, anybody else? Is there any public comment out there? Sorry, no, it's fine. I don't see any public comment. And is there a second then to keep it as it is?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maureen. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes, that motion was that by Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay, Jen Clark Kretz,
Yes.
Bonnie London. Yes. Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jenny Nisley,
Yes.
Tim Underko, Maureen Valley,
Yes.
and Ryan DiMartini.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, what's next?
What's next? The only thing I have left on my agenda is we have to find some high density land. And we're asking all of the subcommittees, and so far nobody's come forth and said, let's take this property and make it more intense. So ultimately, if none of the committees make that decision, it'll fall to the land use committee to try to find an additional 2.2 acres. And so we're asking all the committees, and now we're asking this committee, is there a spot in town where it would make sense to do, or in your area of study, where it would make sense to take this to 20 to 25 units to the acre?
I asked it jokingly about the Lemus property, but would that, they could have some apartments there now, or is that one that's allowed the 6 to 10 or not?
I'm sorry, Gene, I don't know the individual property names.
Oh,
It's the red parcel at the north.
The one we talked about up here?
Yeah. General commercial, is that the one that allows 6 to 10 units to the acre?
Based on that policy, there's no end date. I think that was either Matt or Tim's point that it kind of goes through the whole town. I would say that allows up to 10. Lucy, is there anything in the housing element on that site?
Not that site specifically, no.
Interesting. Okay. So theoretically, Gene, that could go to higher density if the town wanted to do that.
Can it have commercial in the front and apartments?
Certainly.
And does that gas installation affect, I don't know what that is. So would
Yeah.
people be concerned about that as far as living there? Is that
Possibly.
a problem? I don't
Could
know
be.
if it's a problem.
I don't know either. I do know that it's next to a school, which is a head scratcher for me. We normally do quite a bit of analysis before we allow that sort of thing next to a school. So we'd have to look into that. But if that's something we could at least start the conversation on, we'd be light years ahead of all the other committees at this point.
And I'm sorry, how big is that parcel again? Do we know?
I don't have that information. But I can tell you the easement alone is 3/4 of an acre.
An acre.
And that's probably buffered so that it provides some safety buffering from whatever existing uses are there.
And I would show you the other map, but I think somebody pointed out, maybe it was, I don't know who it was, that we probably have the wrong spot.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, here it's, Christy, check
There
that
you
out.
go.
On this map, we have it on the right spot.
I know I fixed it somewhere.
There we go. So we can certainly look at it, and we don't have the parcel size, but we could certainly a start, Gene. If that's something the committee would like us to look at, we can start there.
I was trying to remember what that subdivision was that Miguel mentioned. There was one proposed. The problem was that Legacy Lane people definitely did not want anything like that next to them.
And Matt Fox's hands up. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention maybe the mobile home park or RV park or whatever it is might be a good location to look at. It's kind of near, it's near shopping. It'll be near Costco. It's got on one side of it, it'll have the kind of medium density housing that's going in now in that Taylor Road mixed use development. And on the other side, it's got I think that's kind of a creek or something that runs through there. But, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Where are you talking about, Matt?
The RV park down.
Area 4, I think, down there, right where a little lower than where your mouse is.
Yeah, right in that area. There's an RV park there. It's
The old KOA, you mean?
yeah, it's probably.
So where is it? What's still vacant there? Or
Well,
you can turn it into?
Yeah, it's about 10 acres. So it's not vacant, but it could certainly be, the zoning could be changed to something that would allow high density housing. And would that help get us to would that contribute to our housing needs, or does that not count since it's developed?
Or repurpose?
Is this where you're talking, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I would think if that was changed a land use that allowed high density housing, that would be something that that would make that property pretty attractive for that kind of use.
Do we have to be concerned about dispossessing the people that already live there? I know it's supposed to be temporary, but we're not throwing people out, I don't think.
Is it truly an RV park for people transitory or visiting, or is it really a residential place?
Yes and yes.
You're a born planner, Gene. I love it. The long and the short of it is, there is a process for doing that, but if it's not a permitted residential location, it gets a little gray. But certainly it is something that could be considered.
We have a public comment. Hold on a second here.
This is Dave Daly. I've lived for 23 years. That motorhome park or mobile park, whatever you want to call it, has been here since I've been here. You just can't throw people out of their property, Matt, because you want high density housing in Loomis. That's not right. And what about the people that live around that neighborhood? You're going to put high density housing right up back into that nice neighborhood?
Thank you.
I think they're just looking for suggestions on where to put it. So
And
if you
just
get
to clarify,
suggestions,
just because we change the land use designation doesn't mean we're removing anybody from a property.
That's correct.
Ramona?
Yeah, I just have a question on the business park, or that what it is listed as business park. Did that get changed to something else from a different committee, or it's like that
We are
landlocked?
actually waiting to talk about that. It's going to be one of the first things on our list when we reconvene that committee.
Okay.
We will be talking.
Not saying that it would be,
I'm sorry.
it backs up to rural residential and rural estate, but I'm thinking more, and again, I'm not quite sure what's along that stretch of Granite Oaks Lane. But I'm thinking kind of maybe to take a look at some of the parcels in that area, because it's just off the town center. So keep, putting some higher density along Taylor Road in that area, or, designating it as higher density might make some sense. But again, I'm not too super familiar with what's on the other side of the railroad tracks there.
Thank you.
It's an access problem. So I think the other committee is looking at some type of residential. It's going to have to come out probably onto Bankhead, which isn't a really big street. So I think the committee's going to be looking at how much is reasonable to have coming out onto there, and that isn't decided yet.
Miguel?
Up on Taylor Road by where Birch property is, there's some vacant land up there, but it's all commercial. So would that allow the high density development you're looking for? Because there's land up there. There was once a proposal on about 3 acres to put in an 8-unit apartment, and there was going to be a lot of open space. So you could designate that for high density up there.
Which parcel is that? Number 8?
No, I don't know. No, not number 8. It's not designated. It has no number on it.
I think it's on the other side of the road, isn't it?
Right. Yes, it's on the. It's right. I think it's right next to Bert's house. There's some vacant land in there that would be amendable for. Let's see.
In here somewhere, Miguel?
Yeah, right. I think right in there. I think. Yeah, right in that jump there, or right above it, right on the other side of that, whatever that is, right in there. Yeah.
On the other side of Feathered Nest?
Yes.
Okay, there's Feathered Nest. So
Right.
in here.
And
Well,
Harold, is that
no,
where the-
down below Feather Nest, right there. Yeah,
That's his house. That's his whole ranch right there.
right.
Yep. That's Bert Braun's house. So, but don't we kind of run into that issue, Mark, you were talking about residential butting up to the IL?
Yeah, I mean, if we think there's going to be industrial uses that would go along here, putting housing here would really curtail the types of uses that could be there for the same reasons that we have issues over here, right?
Yeah.
So that's just something the town should consider. Doesn't mean it isn't a good location by any
Right.
means. Just saying it's something you should consider if you want to redesignate and put residential on the side of the street.
And I did look up the fruit stand property. That's 6.3 acres.
This piece here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good size.
Yeah, but that's including that easement. So you have to take
Even
out.
if so it's still 5 acres if you
Yes.
take out and are liberal with the easement. And what is this?
Jenny?
Yeah, how big is that lot between, next to Bank of America, between that and Stone Tree?
Maybe an acre at the most.
Acre, I think.
Okay,
It's a very long.
but it backs up into housing sort of, so I'm thinking.
Fellow's been trying to sell that for 15 years.
What,
We hit pay dirt, Lucy. What, we have 4 sites that we can at least look at?
Oh, yeah. This is great.
does it have to be 2.2 or can you do 2 spots?
You can split it up.
Yep. In fact,
It has to be more than a half an acre. Your site has to be more than half an acre for low income housing, but other than that,
I mean, am I thinking, is that a bad spot? We want commercial, but nothing's been there. Like Miguel said, it's been empty for years.
oh,
We can
Is
put it on
that-
the list. We can put it on the list. We don't have to decide right now. We're just trying to get ideas from the subcommittee. And you guys are awesome. Gold stars.
that-
everywhere.
Is that the
So-
one that's the other half of the Spec West lot, or is that the
No.
other vacant
Now
one?
separate.
It's a separate lot. It's a long, skinny,
It's next to Bank of America, I believe.
right?
So it could possibly accommodate both.
Mhm.
I don't know. It just seemed to me like that might be a good spot to have. It's walkable into town.
And how many units could we attain there?
Piece here, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet spot. It's on a corner. You can get primary access off a secondary street. That's a pretty sweet location.
Well, I don't think it's on a corner.
it's what, Miguel?
It's not on a corner. It's between 2 things.
What's that?
That's a lane to the housing.
Back here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's somebody's
There's housing.
driveway. They might take a dim view of that. Okay, never mind. I sit corrected. Okay, so it's in between. So you'd have to figure out access, but it's not the most complicated thing to figure out.
Be off.
Oops.
I really don't know if that's a good spot. I'm not a planner, so I just think there's not been anything there. And
Ramona has her hand up.
Yeah, no, I agree with Jenny. That's a good spot. I forgot about that vacant parcel there. I think that would be a good spot to put some high density housing. And it could be, since it's a nice long linear lot, you might be able to put some commercial out in the front of it and then have some apartments behind it.
And there's a bus stop across the street.
Sweet. Right there, yeah. Cool beans.
So Mark, do you need addresses? How are you identifying these properties?
Well, I'm assuming that Mary Beth and Christy can help with that when we're done here. We now have the locations, and then we'll get APNs and property sizes, and then take a look at it through the lens of the housing element needs. So we should be good there, and we'll get that figured out, and then we'll figure out next steps from there. This has been awesome. You guys are great. Thank you.
So is the Spec West one the one that's down a couple, just down a ways that looks empty?
This one here?
Keep going down, see where, yeah, with that, yeah.
Oh, this is Spec West here. Okay.
Yeah, they, when we approved that building, they owned the whole lot, but they didn't want to use anything right then. Use it all up.
Got it. That'd be a pretty sweet spot too.
You can always ask.
Mm-hmm. Got it, Lucy? Sweet.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have a quorum to close out this meeting? I'm already late for another meeting and we have a meeting at 6:00.
We do, but I'm wondering how close we are to the end of have we
We're done.
satisfied everything that we need to do with this committee? Mark?
From our perspective, I believe so. Christy, Andy?
That is it.
Yep.
So time for a motion to pass this recommendation on to the Land Use Committee and close the committee.
I would make that motion.
All right, and is there a second? All right, and let's have a roll call.
Okay, so this is a motion that we are closing out our committee, sending our recommendations to the umbrella committee for their consideration, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Jan Clark Kretz,
Yes.
Bonnie Linden, Russ Kelly,
Yes.
Jenny Nisley,
Yes.
Tim Underko, Maureen Valley,
Yes.
and Ryan DiMartini.
Yeah.
Ryan gone?
Yeah.
Ryan left at 5. He had to
Okay.
go.
We still have a quorum, though.
Yes, we do.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
thank you, everybody. Thank you for working hard on this very, very important part of our town. And we've got one done, and appreciate everybody's time. And thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Congratulations, everybody. You guys rock.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
Mary Beth, do we have the next meeting date?
We don't have any
We
more of
closed
this.
it.
We just
Oh,
closed
this
it.
is the, okay. I thought we would see that final one. It's fine. Good. I'm good.
You know, in order for that, you would follow to the umbrella land use committee, because that's where all of this is going. And they're going to get the package of all the subcommittees that their recommendation will go to the planning commission.
Okay.
Thanks again, everybody. Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
In just a little bit.
What's going on with those four houses over there that aren't getting built? They're just on sub?
Yeah.